Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eagles Post-Game Live. I'm Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan, and we're here with, as always, with Eagles Hall of Fame left tackle Trey Thomas. The Eagles beat the Jaguars. They survived the storm. They survived some of their own miscues. They survived Doug Peterson's return with a hot Jacksonville team. They win 29-21. We have a lot to talk about, but obviously we have to start with what's behind Trey Thomas right now. He's been saying it since week 2. He's been talking undefeated. He's been talking Super Bowl. Well, guess what, Trey? The Eagles are still, right now, the only undefeated team in the NFL. What you got behind you?
Absolutely. Come on, man. I mean, they're chasing greatness right now. And I think that this team has just enough gimmicks to go ahead and ride it all the way to the Super Bowl, man. I mean, when I was over at the stadium earlier today to do an autograph signing, and, you saw kids walking around there with the Batman mask on, capes and everything. It reminds me of the 17 team with the underdogs. The ski mask thing just never, it was a little icky. It didn't feel right to me. Yeah, the ski mask just wasn't right. But the underdog mask, I mean, everybody jumped on that. Now everybody's is Batman. You got Kelsey around here, he wants to be fat Batman. Somebody's no way Batman. I don't know what's going on. And then then to add to the whole thing of the Batman, we went and signed a dog, Reggie, just to add to what's going on with the team. So I think that we have enough to ride this wave to the Super Bowl and stay undefeated.
All right. Well, by the way, you see the Miami Dolphins 1972 jersey behind. I don't even want to know where you got that from, but you have it. It's behind you. You see the number 72. Mercury Morris is always the most outspoken member of that crew. He gets a little antsy when teams start to get into November, early December undefeated. So the Eagles have a little bit of a ways to go, but I like that you're throwing out the early bat sign, if you will, or dolphin sign about an undefeated team. Adam, obviously, for this week, for the Eagles to stay undefeated, they had to overcome a lot. The driving rain we talked about, the 14-0 deficit that they put themselves in. So just from a big picture standpoint, how impressive is a win where you didn't play your best and you had a lot of elements to battle and you came back and reasserted yourself in the game?
Mentally tough and resilient. That's the headline for this game. When they were down 14-0, it's like whatever could go wrong went wrong. First throws a pick behind the intended pass target. They're down 14-0. It looks bad. I know the naysayers are saying, see, I told you so, right? We were talking about that last week when they have their first loss. But
yeah,
they're so mentally tough. I got to give him credit. And Sirianni for going on 4th and 1s or whatever, 4th and short. And the defense hanging in there. And they could thank Trevor Lawrence, by the way, for the turnovers. I mean, it's ridiculous. 5 turnovers, some sacks, ball security. And here's another thing that the announcing team was talking about, and I'm glad they brought it up. Sirianni's crazy, and he's also talked about he's maniacal with ball security. Well, you saw that today. Ball security is the key to this game today.
Yeah.
If Jacksonville doesn't keep turning over, they might have won the game. But they turned it over, very sloppy, didn't handle the wet ball well, which we talked about in our game with our pregame show with Avant. Jason really outlined that very well.
And Jason made another good point that we're going to get about regarding the offense that was very prescient. We'll talk about that in a second. But there was a turning point in this game, fellas, that I don't think can be ignored, because if something goes the opposite way, the NFL can be a game of inches or fractions, as they say. But the Eagles are down 14-0. Jacksonville is driving, and Agnew beats whoever was covering on a double post, and he does not get the ball. It's not a great pass by Trevor Lawrence. It's incomplete. If that's a touchdown and the Jaguars take a 21-0 lead, you have to wonder if the Eagles as a team stay as patient as they did and stay with the run game, and because that's really what got them back into the game. If it's 21-0, most teams I know, most coaches I know, they start getting a little antsy, throwing the ball around, and that could have been a totally different outcome. And then obviously after the incomplete pass there, then on 4th down, Trevor Lawrence just loses handle, as you mentioned, Adam, loses handle of the ball. Eagles recover. And from that point on, it felt like all Eagles. But, man, Trey, I mean, if they go up 21-0 there, you wonder what this game looks like in the end.
Oh, absolutely. It changes the game plan then. You know, you go up 21-0. I don't know of any coach that's just going to say, all right, you know what? Hey, we're just going to stick to the game plan. We're just going to keep running the ball and just try to, you know, just keep trying to chug along and just chip away at it because you're down 3 scores. Now, being down 2 scores, all right, you know what? We can kind of hang in there and keep working the process right now. But 3 scores down, man, that definitely changes it. You're going to have to try to pass it, and today was not the day for that, especially when you have all your guys go down with Jordan go down, and then you have Big Isaac go down. Kelsey looked like he tried to go down at one point, you know, but he pushed through it. So, you know, it just looked like there were some times that, you know, you needed to be able to lean on the run and just kind of create some movement and let your big guys take over.
Trey, in the pregame show, we spent a good deal early on talking about playing in the rain, and Jason Avant, from a wide receiver standpoint, did an excellent job of talking about how difficult it is to grip the ball. You saw that today, but I'm wondering from an offensive line / defensive line standpoint, it gets a little muddy up there in the trenches. There's a lot of contact. Saw a couple injuries. What is it like for the big fellas to play in a game like this?
Mostly, you know, it's most of the times you have to change your cleats a lot if it's really bad. Like we would do it a lot when we went to Green Bay or something like that, when you know the field was going to get a little mushy, you know. Mm-hmm. But for us, I mean, it really didn't matter. I mean, you know, you just wet. Yeah, for offensive line, you know, I'm not, you know, the thing that sucks about being in a game like today is just that it's cold and it's rainy and it's not like it doesn't let up. So you're just wet the entire game. So, you know, other than that, it really doesn't bother offensive linemen or for a guard or tackle. Now I can see how it would bother the center a little bit more just because he has to snap the ball. But for the rest of us, I mean, you know,
okay. I was thinking because sometimes I see games like this, little guys, they fall down, they get up. But big guys, when they fall down, usually they're falling on someone or someone is falling on them.
Yeah,
when
big tree falls hard.
Yeah,
it gets bad.
Right. And, well, we'll talk injuries later, but obviously it wasn't a fall. But Jordan Mailata probably made the best attempt of anybody else on the team to try to stop Andre Cisco on that interception return, and he paid the price for it with the shoulder injury. And we'll have to wait to get kind of an update on how he is. But other than that, I'm not sure anybody else put much more effort in trying to get Cisco. We'll get to that in a little bit. Either way, the Eagles come out and they win. Adam, how important as they go forward is just having this kind of game where you got hit in the mouth early and you got tested? Like you were saying, people were kind of waiting. You're on social media when the Eagles are down 14-0, and it's like, oh, here are the real Eagles again, and blah blah blah.
I know.
This will be big for springboard.
Yeah, both of you guys have been in this market for a couple of decades, so you know. Yeah. Fans here sometimes when whatever team it is of the big four gets down, they start getting pessimistic. But you got to be mentally tough, you know. And I'm sure Trey could talk about some of the games over his career with Andy Reid, when they got down early, whether they came back or not, what the keys were, but just handling the pressure. And, you know, and here's another thing. Hurts clearly did not have a very good game, but you know what? He made throws when he had to. And other than the pick, he didn't fumble the ball away like the quarterback on the other side did. Trevor Lawrence was terrible. And his footwork was bad again. He looked like he did last year. It sounds like the Eagles pressured him a lot because there was a lot of short drops. But how in the world do you use that towel that you got on your leg there, man. That was ridiculous. How many times you turn it over?
Yep. The Eagles once again make a quarterback who had looked good going into the game not look good coming out of the game. We'll get into that. We'll wrap this game. We'll talk about the offense. We'll talk about defense, get into some of these injuries, what they look like going forward, and wrap it up. Of course, you can get 20% off if you go use our friends Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code ITB. Get yourself 20% off on all of their great grooming devices and tools. It is starting to get to that season where you're going to want to give yourself a little bit of a comfort underneath, a little shave underneath, get rid of that extraneous hair that you don't want. You go to Manscaped because they got everything. It's not just one razor. They got about 4 or 5 different things you can use for your grooming needs. So get that 20% off using the promo code ITB at manscaped.com. All right. So let's talk about the offense, because Jason made an interesting point, Jason Avant, in the pregame show. He said, hey, look, the Eagles have been playing great, but the one thing that they still do better than most teams is run the ball. But as over the last 2 weeks, you've seen them become a more dynamic passing team. He felt that maybe some of their second half issues have been related to becoming too much of a passing team. Well, as we just talked about, they fell down early. They actually made the decision, we're going to stop throwing the ball around and get real in the trenches. Miles Sanders, career numbers today in carries and yards. And to me, that was the difference, fellas. I mean, they devoted themselves to running the ball. And once they did, Trey, it did not look like Jacksonville, even with their athletic front seven, could stop this Eagles running game.
No, because that's one of the things that Coach Stoutland spends a lot of time on. This is one of the things that he really hangs his hat on, is being able to get guys out there and work those combination blocks and get guys up to the second level so that you could run the ball. That's one of Coach Stoutland's main things that he can hang his hat on. And and the team responded. I mean, you look at what Miles Sanders was able to do. I mean, they weren't like a lot of big home runs. Big run, but I mean, it was just constantly chipping away, especially when you had a defense that was ranked, that was number one coming into this game, only giving up 55 yards a game. And then now you finish with 200 plus, in a game. So, that's just a testament to a lot of the work Coach Stoutland puts in when it comes to the combination blocks and making sure that his guys are ready to play, especially when you have someone like Jack Driscoll having to come in and go from, all right, I know you took most of your reps at right tackle, and then you have Jordan come in, and now you have to go out there at left tackle, and you have to hold it down. That's a challenge. And so you want to be able to do something that he's comfortable with. And, of course, running the ball always helps.
Absolutely. And Adam, I mean, Miles Sanders, 134 yards, 27 carries, 2 touchdowns. It was probably like 6 weeks ago going into the year where we would have the discussion, others have the discussion, is it only a matter of time before Kenneth Gainwell becomes the number one back? Miles Sanders is on his last year. The whole, has he ever been a bell cow thing? It's pretty interesting that the one game the game where I should say the coaching staff seemed to trust him the most to hold on to the ball and be the bell cow was a game with the worst weather they've played in a long time. That to me is like almost staggering.
Yeah, he got the dirty yards. I mean, he got those tough inside. Oh, by the way, he was their 4-minute back, which is really important because they're searching for that guy. And he was that guy. He had 29 touches in this game, ran extremely well. So many, like 5, 7, 6. It wasn't about as Trey was saying, the 20 and 30-yard runs, which he used to get. He did have a 35-yard run, which was nice. But he had plenty of really good intermediate runs, which those count, and they're very important. I thought he was tremendous today, one of his better games in last couple of years here. And you need that. And by the way, Trey Sermon looked pretty darn good. That first run, that 14-yarder, he made the one guy miss, but actually both were very nice. He had a 14-yarder and a 5-yarder.
Right.
So you saw him get in. So we kind of thought that would happen. He got 2 carries, and Gainwell did have the touchdown. I see people want to put that pass on Hurts. Okay, it wasn't accurate. But the thing about Gainwell, every once in a while, he's not always paying attention. He was responsible for that pick against the Vikings.
Yeah.
And I just thought he could have been looking at it at the right time, but it is what it is.
I mean, when you're wide open and you're a running back who's, quote, a third down back or somebody who's supposed to be able to catch passes out of the backfield, you have to catch that ball. That was in his hands. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but not every throw is going to be perfect. And that has eluded Kenny Gainwell a couple of times this year. And just in general, it's weird that he's a third down back, Trey, who has trouble catching passes, but seems to be a great runner between the tackles. Sort of like the antithesis of a third down back.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's something that he'll continue to work on. And then, sometimes I wonder when something like that happens in practice, I wonder, was he the option? Because sometimes in practice, you have a quarterback and they don't always get him to go to those reads. So maybe sometimes when that play is called, it's going downfield. It's not necessarily coming to the running back. So he may have just been like, oh, it's on me now, and it caught him by surprise. But that's definitely not something that you can have. You definitely need to continue to work on it.
So the Eagles ran 50 total times for 210 yards, average over 4 yards per carry. But honestly, the running backs did a better job because Jalen Hurts ran 16 times for just 38 yards, 2.4 yards a carry. So really, this is one of the rare times where Jalen Hurts' rushing stats actually do not favor the overall game. I mean, their numbers their yards per carry average would be a lot higher in general, but that just shows you how effective Miles Sanders was today. And I just wondered if going forward, guys, if this game kind of serves as a reminder to the Eagles that that A, they've always got this running game in their back pocket, but B, if they want a little more consistency to their offense, but maybe to remember to lean on the running game, even as they add to the passing game. I don't know if either of you felt that they were getting away from what they do best, but there was a streakiness to their offense.
I just didn't think they had, this was the day to be spinning it downfield. Right. It just was really difficult. It never stopped raining. We talked about this in the pregame show. It was windy. It was going to be tough. Now, what we also said is the only way it's going to be high scoring, which it was, is if there were a lot of turnovers, and there were 6 turnovers in this game, 5 though from Jacksonville. So you're giving the Eagles a shorter field, and they took advantage of it. And what coaches call true rushing yards, the number was higher because they had short yardage runs. And Sanders obviously ran extremely well. He had so many good runs today. So I think they'll learn from it. It's such a quagmire game because they got down early. They weren't handling the weather very well at all, quite frankly. They looked totally inept offensively the first quarter.
Yeah.
But man, what is this team in the second quarter? Jeff, you have those numbers. What was the second quarter number?
They had scored 65 points in the second quarter going into this game, and now it's up to 85, which I believe I read somewhere might be a league record through 4 games of the season. There's something about the second quarter where you can't stop this team, and I don't know. It's sort of hard to explain why, but they've certainly it seems like they figure some things out, guys, as they go along. Trey, I mean, I don't know. I think part of me thinks that the stat is a little bit coincidental. Like by week 17, it's not going to be that lopsided, but it's clearly a trend for now.
Yeah, it probably takes them a little time to get things clicking, especially when it's a day like today, it's like, you're feeling kind of magenta,
Magenta, huh?
It's rainy, it's wet, it's cold, and it's like, man, you're trying to get it going and you want to be fired up, but it's just soggy out there. And it's like, yeah. All right, let's get it going. And then, things get to clicking and, you get the defense, get a couple plays, and then now you're on, man. And I think it takes this team sometimes a little time to get things going.
Yeah, you got to get that chartreuse feeling or that periwinkle vibe, right? Yeah, magenta doesn't work very well. All right, one big stat here, fellas. Like the score was close. It's a 1-possession game at the end, but time of possession, Eagles nearly 40 minutes, Jacksonville 20 minutes. By the way, Jacksonville came in to the end of this game, leading our second in the NFL in time of possession. That's kind of their thing under Doug Peterson, who is always top 3, top 5, top 1 sometimes with the Eagles there in time of possession. But obviously that was not the case. That's big. You want to be the Doug Peterson team, you have to control the ball more than they do, and clearly they did that. Time of possession is I always think the time of possession is sometimes that and takeaway might be more important than like passing yards, rushing yards, some other situational stats. Trey, as a team, as an offense, because Andy was a big time of possession guy also, although as his offense evolved, he became in the 2006 through 2010, there was a lot more of a shot play type thing when you guys added Deshaun. But was time of possession a focus ever when you played certain teams?
And you know what? I never thought about it.
Okay.
I sometimes when we got out there and I'm like, all right, now, the big fella been out here for a long time, man. We need to do something. I need us to get in the end zone or something because I want to go sit down. I want some Gatorade. I would like a sip of water right now. Maybe hit the oxygen tank a couple times. You know what I'm saying? But we've been out here for about 10, 11 plays. 5. Can you do something? So let's get this over with.
That's funny. I remember Jim Johnson once saying, his defense had given up a lot of points early on. And without saying it, he said, well, we got this, he said it sarcastically, we got this ball control offense. And it was the opposite. They were just scoring in 3 or 4 plays and his defense was on the field. This is like Deshaun Jackson's first or second year.
Oh, yeah. I love those plays. Let's go past 67. Give me that one big pass. Boom. I jog down the field. I got to sprint down the field 80 yards. Let's get that, get a field goal. I'm all right. Let's get some Gatorade, baby.
There you go.
They ran 77 plays today. That is a extremely high number. On offense. That's a big number. The Bills have the high this season of 92 plays, which they had against the Dolphins last week.
That's like 3 games for the Jets, man.
It's a lot of plays.
Hey, real quick question for you guys before we move away from offense. It's just on decision making. Miles Sanders scores a touchdown with 8:50 to go, and they try to get the 2-point conversion. They don't get it, so they're only up 15. At that point, you could have been up 16. And then if the other team scores a touchdown, then you're still up 9, and you're not worried about it being a one-possession game like it was. Was that kind of a questionable call? Did you guys kind of scratch your heads at that, why they're going for 2 there?
Well, you know what? I scratched my head more on the going for it when it was 4th and 3.
I was going to ask about that too.
Up 8. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that one right there, you go ahead and kick the field goal. You're up 3. You get to put more points on the board, and then it's over with. You don't even have to worry about it. Going for the 2, I mean, coaches, and then that was still off Jake just now coming off of his injury still at the time, so you really wasn't sure. They kind of got the camera off of him when they were trying to give him some vitamins. I'm not quite sure what was going on there.
That was a little odd, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm going to give it a secret vitamin here. But, that was cool, but you wasn't quite sure where he was. But, I was a little bit more shocked on the one where you didn't go, where you went for it on the 4th and 3.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Adam, you had the same sort of curiosity about that? Yeah.
I love his aggressives today, but you're up 8 with the ball. I forget how much time was up. It was 4th and 3. I'm like, kick the field goal. Now the question is, and only Sirianni can answer this, is Elliott's leg. I mean, he as you saw when he made that field goal, the camera panned to him a couple times. You could tell his leg wasn't right. So maybe that's what the reason why he did that. But I love Sirianni's aggressiveness. He's almost always will go for it. Which is not the way when you and I were covering the league in the beginning. That's not what teams did.
No,
they would take the field goal, right?
Yeah, so, you put Sirianni and Doug Peterson on the same field, and the punters might as well just go to the locker room and play cards or something like that. Because
4th and 30, we're going for it. I think we got a shot.
4th and 26,
we're going for
it. Oh man, good stuff. All right, well, we've got to talk about this defensive effort, but before we do that, we are going to hear a word from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
Game night for me is every night. At the place where I meet up with the guys, grab a cold one, and watch the big game on the big screen. So whether it's the money line, the pass line, or a parlay, I'm in it to win. This is my city, and this is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook, which is also the host of our pregame show. Always good to come down there, place your bets, or use the Bet Rivers app to make them there. This defense, listen, we spent a great deal of time in the offseason talking about you can improve your personnel. That's great. You need to do that to do certain things. But for a long time, the Eagles defense had not been a takeaway defense. And as you've seen early on so far, Adam, they were +4 in the turnover ratio going into this game. And today they were +4 alone with 5 takeaways, 1 giveaway, 4 fumble recoveries. So that's going to put them at +8 in the turnover margin for the season. That's how you win games in this league.
It is. Now, obviously, it's more on Lawrence. And yeah, they did recover. That's their job. They did a good job there. But Lawrence, I don't know. I just don't understand. Look, if you do it once or twice, that's enough. You don't need to do it 4 times. That was bizarre to me. It was hard to get to him only because we outlined this in our pregame show that the reason why Lawrence has improved is because of this short drop pass game. Mm-hmm. Now, and the conditions were so difficult here. He was clearly off his game. There's no doubt about it. Jamal Agnew almost beat them though. That was interesting. But overall, they couldn't run the football. James Robinson had a fumble, and they had to figure out how to move the football. It's just one of these odd games where survival is the key here. Somehow find a way to win. Now you were talking about causing turnovers, but the big thing here and why Agnew probably did well is there's no Avonte Maddox. Josiah Scott started at slot corner, and then Slay got hurt his forearm very early in the game, did not return. So clearly they were at a disadvantage. Whereas if the weather was good, they might have been in real trouble. Mm-hmm. But the weather was obviously almost like the 12th man for them in terms of defense because they just could not get the ball downfield for the most part. And the coverage was as good as it could be in this weather. It's because I know from talking to coaches who coach offense, in these rain games, they always feel like they have the advantage because the defense is the backpedal. And today, the passing games were kind of challenged.
Trey, I think that Doug and the Jacksonville guys, Trevor Lawrence, they're going to watch the tape, right? And they're probably going to vomit because, they're up 14-0. And then listen, here's how their possessions went in the second quarter: fumble, punt, fumble. And then the third quarter, punt, interception, then fumble, then touchdown, then fumble. And as Adam was saying, yeah, you could say the Eagles did some good things, but a lot of that stuff was just like sloppiness with the ball and carelessness. And I always wonder, like, when after you guys have a stinker of a game and you're watching the tape, that's got to be the most almost like injury to insult type of tape study.
Oh yeah, those are terrible. Those are the games that you want to come in and you just hope that the coach just said, all right, we're just going to put this one behind us and let's just move forward. Because you don't want to sit there and watch a game where you just stunk up the field. And that's what they did. I mean, just way too many turnovers. And you're in Florida, so you've dealt with elements. I mean, rain, so I don't see how this was one of the games where it was just like they were like, oh my God, what is this thing that's falling from the sky? They never knew, like, what is this? How do you play in something like this?
Right.
And they just didn't handle it well at all. No ball security, too many fumbles. I mean, you look at, Hassan Reddick just went out there and just had his way with these offensive tackles with just, simple bull and go moves, and just had his way with the guys. And this was supposed to be a offensive line front that had improved, but it did not look like it. And Hassan Reddick go out there and has 2 sacks, 2 strip fumbles. Fletcher Cox falls on one, and then this is what you're doing. You can't run the ball. I thought that the Eagles definitely, as we got out of our magenta mode, we definitely started playing, with a little fire under us.
Yeah, change the color on the mood ring. That's all it's all about.
Yes, we changed the color on the mood ring.
Adam, the funny thing is, like, when we did our homework on Hassan Reddick come into as a free agent signing, the feedback we constantly got was just explosive speed around the edge. But secondarily to that, we would say, well, why isn't he considered one of the best players in the league or best pass rushers? It's because if you got your hands on him, he's pretty blockable. We've even seen that sometimes in run defense. But I got to say, he sort of flipped the script in this game. As Trey mentioned, he had a bull rush on Jawan Taylor, especially on that that's not his speed to power was not his game, more so than speed was. So that was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, he was lined up at end on that play. That surprised me. That was interesting. We'll have to see what they do going forward here. But look, they're still playing that 5-man box, the 5-man front, which is pretty much what they did last year. But they're not always deploying it the same way. But they shut down the Jags' run. There's no doubt that was part of it. That's something they try to rely on at times. And ETN had some good runs in the game, but Jermichael Hasty had to play in the pass game. But you know what? The key here is the guys that you were worried about. Although Kirk on a it might have been a zero blitz. It was definitely a blitz. I can't remember if there was a free safety, but they blitzed and Kirk got wide open. He 2 defenders, they just lost him. The secondary almost scored on that one, that 45-yarder. Right. But overall, they here's the thing: they survived this game. They won the game. There are some casualties with injury on both sides of football. We'll learn more as the week progresses. But the fact of the matter is, again, the mental toughness for this team. I'll admit it. I didn't think they'd come back and win. I'm gonna admit what I felt. I'm like, here it is. They're just throw this game away. They're gonna lose. It's gonna be ugly. It's rain. That just showed me a lot. And they've gotten so much younger too. It's good that a younger team now is handling this kind of situation.
Yeah, last thing on the defense, and you just wonder who's going to be able to team that can consistently exploit it, because no one yet has, although the Lions scored a decent amount of points. But Trey, I thought the way the game started, I thought Doug had done a nice job of kind of observing that the matchup zone style of defense the Eagles have been playing and trying to flood those zones to get these guys a little bit, sort of confused as to where the ball was going to go. And they were able to move the balls on the edges, especially in the flats, getting it to guys who have shiftiness. We'll see if the Cardinals can do that a little bit next week. But so far, no one's really been able to sustain it because of the defense. But I feel like there will be a team they play that's going to attack what the Eagles are trying to do well right now and have the answer at some point.
Yeah, but I think Doug did a really good job of just a lot of sleight of hand type stuff. I mean, it was like, all right, hey, it was like the Kansas City shuffle. Like, all right, I'm going to look left, I'm going right, and it was all this. Hey, you got a puller coming this way, then you got someone coming out in the flats. Oh no, it's a screen going the opposite direction. So there are a lot of little, a lot of very crafty plays at one point, and I'm like, please don't run the Philly special. But
oh my God!
Someone ran it Sunday.
I know someone scored on it. You know what? Did the Jets not score on it?
No, they did. Zach Wilson scored. Yeah.
Zach Wilson and he gritty. So that's the thing now.
Yeah, no, to your point, the Agnew touchdown that put him up 14-0. I mean, he's flexed, then he starts to go in motion, then he literally just runs back into the end zone, and Chauncey was following him but couldn't get there in time. That was a well-designed play by Doug Peterson.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah,
not good enough.
He leaves with a loss though, so he did get the ovation. There was some question about whether or not, of course, I had there was no doubt in my mind Doug Peterson was getting the hero's welcome when he came into through the tunnel.
As he should. I mean, he brought the first Super Bowl here. And then Kelsey, he came here. You got the ovation, but you're leaving without your raincoat because Kelsey took his rain jacket.
Oh, man, that Kelsey. Yeah. He's always playing tricks.
Kelsey took his raincoat. Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap this show up. We just want to hear real quick from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. Always great, by the way, to hear that voice of Merrill Reese. So a concern going forward, sort of from an injury standpoint, is, and apparently Jordan Mailata told reporters after the game he's going to have an MRI tomorrow, per Jeff McClain, on the shoulder that he injured. He said he hurt it, obviously, doing the dive on the interception return. Jack Driscoll played well as a run blocker, but there were times he got overwhelmed there. He's never played left tackle at the pro level before. I'm not even sure if he played it at Auburn. So, Adam, it's crazy because someone accused us of jinxing Mailata because we spoke this week about the lack of depth at tackle ever since they signed LaRaven Clark from the practice squad, and they lost a couple other linemen since the start of the season to other teams' practice squad. So their depth isn't what it used to be.
No, it's bad.
And no Andre. They got to wait till Andre Dillard gets back here.
Yeah, and you got the Dickerson foot thing. You're always worried about that, which he's had since August. So their depth now at left tackle completely shot. Roderick Johnson's on the practice squad who could play right or left tackle. He's a stopgap guy, but look, you're not at this point. You're not going to get someone who's accomplished, and we'll see what happens when Dillard gets back in the second half of the season. So that's a concern. I know Slay was talking in the locker room. I hope his forearm injury is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then Malo hurt his ankle. Jake Elliott hurt his ankle. So, boy, special teams, also both sides of the football, before they travel to Arizona, to Tempe or Phoenix on Saturday, they got to get as healthy as they can. So this is going to be a challenge for them this week to get guys ready.
Yeah. Also, Patrick Johnson was evaluated for a head injury as well. Trey, what was your kind of impression of Jack Driscoll trying to play left tackle?
You know what? At first, it looked like, okay, it looked uncomfortable for him because you could tell like he spent most of his time on the right side. But then I was quite impressed a couple times where he was able to sit down on the bull rush. But then there were times that it just happens, because you're so used to being on one side. And when you get bull, you drop that inside foot. And when that happens, it creates a lane to the quarterback. And that's what happened one time where he dropped that inside foot. And then he gets tangled up with Hurts, and boom, there you go, sack. So, but I think overall, being someone that just all of a sudden you're getting thrown into the fire, and I know he hasn't taken any live reps on the left side, so I think all in all, he did a solid job. Definitely better than when Dillard had to switch over to the right.
Yep.
Or even when Lane had to go over to left tackle. So a lot of people just, oh, yeah, you can go ahead and just switch. It's not that easy. And then you had Opeta have to go in at right guard. So, he spent most of his time at left guard. So this is Coach Stoutland's going to have to get in his bag again and, and have these guys get ready to go.
All right. Well, we will monitor that throughout the week as the Eagles offensive line and, of course, the secondary taking a hit with Darius Slay. And Avonte Maddox was already out. Josiah Scott filled in. We kind of talked about on the pregame show. We expected that. Got beat a couple of times, but overall they were able to compensate. But we will have to see as this week goes on if the Eagles get any healthier. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds Postgame Live. We thank everybody for watching. We thank our friends at Sky Motor Cars, Rivers, and Manscaped. For Trey Thomas and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.